Am I the antagonist for telling my 13-year-old daughter the truth? I'm a 38-year-old woman and my ex, also 38, got divorced 10 years ago. It took some time to figure out co-parenting and I'm not sure it's ever perfect, but we are in a good place. My ex, who we will call Michael, has been very problematic to say the least. For context, my daughter is now 13. He left me while I was pregnant with our daughter so he could pursue the single life and live with a male friend. Then we got back together after our daughter was born. 3 years later, he tells me he cheated on me 3 days after our child was born while I was in the hospital, and he was now dating yet another co-worker. He ended our marriage for this woman that we call Taylor. Michael and Taylor lasted for 6 years. It was painful for me, but I ended up rebuilding my life and finding happiness. Out of nowhere, my ex messages me to tell me that he and Taylor broke up because he got their mutual friend Jasmine pregnant. Needless to say, Taylor was heartbroken, and she then apologized to me for all the hurt she caused me because now she was experiencing her own consequences. I accepted her apology and moved on. My daughter Gracie accepted this change pretty well. She was shocked that her dad and Taylor were over, but she was very accepting of Jasmine. Michael and Jasmine dated, and then she moved in after their child was born. All was going really well. I actually really enjoyed Jasmine as a stepmom figure because she was kind but had structure for Gracie, which was something her dad lacks. He then called me and Gracie for a meetup early this year to tell us he broke up with Jasmine and he was not in love with her anymore. He wanted to let me and Gracie know that he wasn't dating anyone else, and he was going to work on himself for once. He seemed sincere, but deep down I never believed him. I've also been a shoulder for Jasmine to cry on. She's been on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and she doesn't have much family or friends. Fast forward to July 2023, he moved out of his home with Jasmine and into his apartment, and now magically has a new girlfriend named Annie, who is 28 years old. He's trying to have our daughter meet her already. I quickly stopped that and let him know that he needed to wait a few months before introducing them. I found out through a friend that my ex is now cheating on Annie. I feel bad for her, but I also feel like she was okay with his messy behavior, so what made her think he wouldn't do it to her? Gracie has been very excited to meet Annie because they are closer in age, listen to the same music, and enjoy similar movies according to her dad. Am I the asshole for letting my daughter know that her dad is yet again playing games and possibly cheating on her? I did it with the thought process of not wanting her to get emotionally attached and then lose her. Any comments are greatly appreciated. It's understandable that you're concerned for your daughter's well-being and want to protect her from potential emotional harm. By letting her know about her father's behavior, you're looking out for her best interests. It's important for her to be aware of the situation and make informed decisions about her relationship with her father. However, it might be helpful to approach the conversation in a sensitive and age-appropriate manner, focusing on maintaining open lines of communication with your daughter and supporting her through any emotions that arise. Am I the antagonist for telling my stepmom my wife and I are moving out after she called my wife a bitch? I recently received a text message from my stepmom. To provide some context, my wife and I have been living with my dad and stepmom for 14 months. Our arrangement was that we would pay $500 a month for rent and utilities, and in return we would use my older sister's bedroom. When we moved in, we made it clear that we had 3 cats and a dog. Since then, I got my wife a new puppy, which becomes relevant to the following events. My stepmom started getting upset because I only give $250 from each paycheck as rent. Since I receive 2 paychecks a month, this totals the agreed $500 rent. However, in September, I received 3 paychecks, so I assumed I did not owe them $250 from my last paycheck that month. Unexpectedly, my stepmom expected the additional payment, causing a small argument. We eventually settled on 2 specific days each month for me to pay them, to avoid any further confusion. This happened a few days ago. This morning, I almost got to work late because I couldn't wake either of them up to move their car from the driveway. So I texted my dad about it, expressing the need for a solution. Here's the message I sent him. Hey, I just wanted to discuss the parking situation. I tried to wake you both up this morning to move the car, and we almost ended up being late. Initially, we agreed to give you the back spot because you never know when you'll receive a call. However, if you prefer the front spot, please let us know. We can move our car if needed. It might be easier to handle this in the evening rather than waking you up in the morning. Unfortunately, my dad never responded. My wife also spoke with him about it before I got home from work. Additionally, I want to acknowledge that my wife, although not perfect, has always been kind to both my parents throughout our relationship. This is the message my stepmom sent me, followed by my reply. Stepmom, I feel like we did you a favor by allowing you to move back in with your menagerie of animals. However, I don't sense much gratitude from you. I mentioned last year that your sister and her husband always parked on the grass without any issues. I didn't want any problems and wanted to avoid getting involved. Also, please tell wife to watch her tone when speaking to your dad. She can be rude, and she needs to show more respect. You were aware of the house's condition before moving back, so she should keep her comments to herself. Me, I'm sorry if we have inconvenienced you. Don't worry, Luna won't cause any more trouble. We won't use the driveway anymore either. She moved her car and will park on the side until it starts snowing. I will receive my student refund around Thanksgiving, and we will be out before January. I can't give you exact dates right now, but I will inform you as soon as I know. I'm feeling confused about this situation. It seems like I'm being treated as someone who is not considered family or loved, but rather someone who received a favor. Am I overreacting or being an asshole? I genuinely don't know what to do anymore. Based on the information provided, it seems that the stepmom in this situation may have overreacted and potentially shown some unreasonable behavior. However, it's important to note that we are only getting one side of the story. Regarding the issue with the parking situation, it appears that the stepmom's reaction was overly harsh, considering it was a simple request to find a solution to the problem. Instead of addressing the concern directly, she made passive-aggressive comments about feeling unappreciated and criticized the wife's tone. This response doesn't seem proportionate to the situation at hand. However, it's also worth considering the stepmom's perspective. She may have been dealing with other stressors or contributing factors that led to her reaction. Communication breakdowns can easily occur, and misunderstandings happen even within families. In terms of the response from the original poster, OP, it is understandable that they felt hurt and dismissed by the stepmom's message. However, instead of engaging in an argument or defending their wife, the OP chose a more passive response by stating they will no longer use the driveway and will be leaving soon. While this might alleviate some tension, it may not effectively address the underlying issues that need to be resolved within the family dynamic. To determine whether the OP is the asshole or not, additional information would be needed about their overall behavior and dynamics with the family. It's crucial to remember that conflicts within families can be complicated, and it's not always easy to assign blame entirely to one person. Am I the antagonist for wanting to keep my ex-fiancé's cat? 4 years ago, my ex-fiancé, 28 years old, non-binary, and I, 23 years old, male, adopted a cat together early in our relationship. I recently broke up with them because they had a severe mental breakdown. After a particularly bad breakdown, they wanted to be admitted to a psychiatric ward, which I supported. However, while in the ward, they gave their number to several guys, including a 20-year-old I'll refer to as Jay. They constantly text Jay and even went to his house with their younger sister to smoke weed. Unfortunately, they discovered that his house was a literal meth trailer. Their sister refused to stay and had a panic attack after leaving due to the uncomfortable environment. Despite this, my ex continued to go back, ignoring me for days and even missing our anniversary to get high with Jay. There was also an 18-year-old girl named A living there. It's important to note that part of what triggered my ex's breakdown was losing our apartment and having to move apart. As a result, I am currently staying with my dad 2 hours away. They were living in their older sister's basement, which becomes relevant later because they decided to sneak A and J into the house for 2 nights, even though there were 2 little girls asleep upstairs. How did it turn out? Well, their sister said my ex woke her up around 5:30 in the morning, freaking out and claiming there was a demon in the basement, insisting on bringing a weapon. Allegedly, A, the 18-year-old, had eyes that turned black, and my ex believed they were possessed by the demon of lust. They are still fully convinced of this. A and J were immediately sent home, and my ex was put on family lockdown. However, they couldn't stop texting them or obsessing over what they believe had happened. Naturally, I felt ignored for 3 days while hearing everything from their sisters, resulting in my decision to break up with them. So what does this have to do with the cat? They reached out to me, asking me to give her away to a friend of theirs. I don't think it's fair to the cat, who has bonded with me and my other cat, to be taken away. I have a good job and my mom is a vet, so I can provide proper care for her. She is completely content with me and considers me her home. The only reason my ex wants the cat out of my possession is to control me. Throughout our relationship, they were manipulative and narcissistic, and they are now desperate for any kind of control. Initially, we agreed that when they became stable again, they could have the cat back, and I fully intended to honor that promise. However, since they are currently unstable, I don't believe they should be the ones making that decision. I am prioritizing the cat's well-being rather than my ex's feelings. Am I wrong in this situation? Your ex-fiancé's behavior, including cheating on you, neglecting your relationship, and engaging in risky situations with strangers while in a vulnerable state, shows a lack of consideration for your feelings and well-being. It is reasonable for you to prioritize the welfare of the cat and maintain ownership, especially if you have the means to provide a stable and loving environment. Your ex's desire to control you by requesting the cat back does not outweigh the importance of the cat's well-being and your own peace of mind. Would I be the antagonist for towing entitled neighbor from my driveway? I recently moved to a new house and I absolutely love it except for one thing: my neighbor right next door. Let me provide some context. My backyard is connected to theirs without a gate, and their backyard is against my garage. My driveway is in front of the garage, and my backyard grass area is right next to the driveway. Additionally, my house is a corner house, which means there's plenty of parking space for both me and the neighbors. When I moved in, the neighbor's husband informed me that he had an agreement with the previous owner to park in the garage driveway in exchange for doing landscaping work. Several things about this bother me. First, my house is owned by a company, not an individual, so that agreement may no longer be valid. Second, due to the property's legalities, I am required to have renter's insurance, meaning I would be held liable for anything that happens in the driveway or garage. Third, I have experienced hit-and-run damage when parking on this street before, so I really want to park in my driveway. I have communicated this to the neighbors. Lastly, the area of grass they are concerned about is small and doesn't take up much space. Despite informing them of my plans to park in the driveway and even discussing my intention to add a carport, I noticed that they parked in my driveway when I parked to get groceries. I asked them when they were planning to move their truck and equipment trailer, and they responded by asking when I would be getting my carport. This behavior is frustrating. The most important aspect is that, irrespective of their lawn work agreement, it is stated in my lease that I am responsible for lawn care, and if I neglect it, I will face consequences from the property management. We've only been in the house for 4 nights, so I didn't want to create conflict, but I don't think the neighbor understands that I will tow their vehicles if necessary. I've spoken to them multiple times, and when I initially started moving in a week ago, I specifically mentioned that we would be moving in within 3 days, giving them ample time to move their belongings. Although I feel a bit guilty seeing their other car damaged, which is their only working vehicle, I am considering towing their vehicles if they continue parking in my driveway. To summarize, my neighbor keeps parking in my garage and driveway despite being repeatedly told not to. They insist that they had an agreement with the previous owner, but refuse to stop parking there. They currently have 1 disabled car and another working one. Towing their vehicles would certainly cause significant inconvenience for them, but I'm wondering if I would be in the wrong if I decide to tow their truck every time it's in my driveway. You have clearly communicated your expectations to your neighbor and have valid reasons for wanting to park in your own driveway. You have even given them multiple warnings and opportunities to move their vehicle. It is not your responsibility to accommodate their parking preferences, especially considering the potential liability issues with your property. While it may be unfortunate for them if their vehicle gets towed, it is ultimately their responsibility to find alternative parking arrangements. Would I be the antagonist? If I asked my husband to keep normal work hours so I don't feel like a single working parent? Too long, didn't read. My husband quit his job to start a company, but he mostly works when I'm home from my 9-5 job, leaving me to parent alone with no breaks. A year ago, my husband and I closed our store. I went back to working full-time in corporate marketing, and he stayed home to start his dream business. We have twins who are 4.5 years old, one of whom is significantly disabled. They both attend preschool from 8-3 every day. I work from 9-5, so my husband has the house to himself from 9-3. Afterward, he has 2 hours with our daughters before I get home. Our disabled daughter usually takes a nap after school, so he spends most of his time with our other daughter, who enjoys being with him. However, there's a problem. As soon as I get home from an exhausting day at work, it feels like he stops participating in parenting duties. Besides occasionally asking for his help, I take care of the majority of childcare until the kids go to bed 3-4 hours later, as well as the entire weekend. After the kids are asleep, I'm expected to cook a full dinner for both of us and spend time with him until we go to bed. During this time, he either lies on the couch on his phone or works on flipping old pickup trucks in the garage, which is currently more profitable than his startup business, though I have faith in it. I'm frustrated because I believe he could do the work on the trucks during the 6 hours he's home alone. He disappears to the garage for the whole weekend, leaving me to handle all the childcare and cooking. Additionally, he constantly makes passive-aggressive comments about the cleanliness of the house, even though I'm doing my best to manage the kids in the house while feeling like a single parent to 2 challenging toddlers, each with different abilities. I appreciate that he's working hard on the trucks to bring in money while building his company. I know he wants to finish the projects quickly, but it's exhausting to never get a break, and I'm starting to resent him. I'm at a point of extreme burnout with my job, managing the household, and my kids. I fear this will severely impact our marriage if it continues. Would I be in the wrong if I establish a boundary with him, requesting that work stays within work hours and that we have designated family time? How should I approach this with my stubborn and obsessed husband, who doesn't handle criticism well? It is completely reasonable for you to want to set a boundary with your husband regarding his parenting responsibilities and balancing his side hustles. You are clearly overwhelmed and feeling like a single parent, which is not fair to you. Taking care of 2 toddlers and working a full-time job is already challenging, and your husband needs to step up and contribute more. You could approach the conversation by expressing your concerns and emotions calmly and honestly. Let him know how overwhelmed you feel and the impact it is having on your mental and physical well-being. Explain that you need his support and involvement in parenting and household duties when you are home. Suggest that he focuses on work during work hours, and when you are both home together, you can share the responsibilities. It might also be helpful to have a conversation about expectations and division of labor. Discuss how you can both contribute to household chores and parenting duties in a more balanced way. Additionally, set specific times for family time and couple time where work-related activities are put on hold. While it might be challenging to communicate these concerns with someone who doesn't take criticism well, it is important to make it clear that this is not a personal attack, but rather a plea for support and teamwork. Seek marriage counseling or therapy if necessary to navigate through this issue and strengthen your communication and relationship. Would I be the antagonist if I moved out of my parents' house? Currently, my household consists of me, 22 years old, my brother, 23 years old, my mom, 48 years old, my stepdad, 48 years old, and my sister, 7 years old. We live in a subsidized housing, which means that our rent is based on our combined income and changes whenever our income fluctuates. Ever since my brother and I started working, we have been pooling our funds for the household. We don't pay a fixed amount of rent. Instead, we contribute whenever we are asked to, and the money goes towards rent, groceries, and bills. The amount varies, and sometimes it's my entire paycheck. However, I'm okay with it because my needs are being met. Lately, for the past 4 or 5 months, my entire paycheck and my brother's have been going towards household expenses. We have never had complete transparency regarding our bills or where the money goes. My mom and I share a bank account, but she uses Venmo, so I can only see various Venmo charges when she withdraws from our account. My brother and I have been feeling stressed and depressed because our bank accounts have been in the negative for months, and we haven't been able to enjoy simple pleasures like coffee, snacks, or going out with friends. Additionally, we no longer have health insurance as our household no longer qualifies for Medicaid. I've tried asking, begging, and demanding financial transparency from my parents, but they refuse to provide it. I'm fed up with it. However, if my brother and I apply to move into a 2-bedroom apartment, we can separate our finances and become an independent household. This would allow us to regain our Medicaid, which is crucial because both of us have ongoing health issues. We know it won't be easy, and there will be many challenges. But since our parents won't let us learn about all the expenses of living with them, this crash course is the only way we can achieve independence. However, this decision could greatly impact our parents. It's evident that they are in significant debt, and they are barely making ends meet by relying on our combined paychecks, and then some. The biggest consequence of separating our finances is that they would have to move into a 2 or 3 bedroom unit due to the way our apartments are structured. Of course, we would still contribute financially, and I would continue babysitting for free. We love our family and feel guilty about wanting to leave them, but the burden of this household is overwhelming both my brother and me. It's also important to note that my stepdad's job alone would disqualify a family of 3 from Medicaid, so they would have to handle that on their own. Additionally, the rent would not decrease for them because my stepdad's income alone reaches the rent cap. He earns a decent amount of money, although I don't know the exact figure as he refuses to tell me, but I suspect he is being irresponsible with his finances. As a specific example, our household agreed to cancel all streaming service subscriptions to save money, but 2 months later, we discovered that he had secretly made a personal Hulu account. I want to budget, but my parents won't cooperate, so I don't have information on our total combined income or expenses. You and your brother have been contributing your entire paychecks to support the household without being able to enjoy any personal expenses or have financial transparency. Additionally, losing your health insurance is a major concern, especially when you both have ongoing health issues. You have tried asking, begging, and demanding financial transparency from your parents, but they have not been willing to provide it. Living in a separate 2-bedroom apartment seems like the only way for you and your brother to gain independence, financial stability, and regain your health insurance. It is understandable that you feel guilty for wanting to leave your family, but it is important to prioritize your own well-being and mental health. You are still willing to contribute and help them even if you move out, which shows your love and concern for the family. Regarding your suspicions about your stepdad's financial irresponsibility, it is frustrating not knowing the full financial picture and not being able to budget effectively. It might be beneficial to have a calm and open conversation with your parents, emphasizing your concerns and the need for financial transparency for everyone's benefit. Overall, it is important to prioritize your own well-being and make decisions that will lead to a more stable and independent life for yourself. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.